Okay, guys, welcome to the new series. And so basically, I'll open this new series as the graduates, people that experience university and now are in practice. And thank you, Stephano and Rashmi, for being the first guests on the podcast, and also a new brand podcast, DOAA, basically the Diary of an Architect. And so maybe we can start about what was your intentions in terms of architecture, what the dreams or the motivation to pursue architecture in one initial year. So maybe Stephano, you can start maybe.
Yeah, why not? So growing up, I grew up in Saudi Arabia. Just a bit of background, and I used to go every once in a year to India, and then I used to love the difference in architecture, especially in city like Riyadh and the very cultural traditional architecture in India. And I've noticed, why is this why is it separate, completely different? That's when I realized architecture is very location specific and very context based. Like, you have to learn about the environment, the earth, everything in the local context. And that's why I thought I should learn about this. There's some technicality between it. That's when I started looking up for courses, and I thought I'm going to be a civil engineer who just builds building, but then I kept looking for it, and I found architecture, and I did my entrance exams for the university, and that's how I ended up in architecture. Yeah, that's good.
That's good. What about you, Rashmi? Was it similar, different experience?
I think a little bit different. I came from an art background. I initially studied 3D design and painting and fine arts. So architecture was very new to me. I think I sort of fell in love with the idea of creating spaces and creating experiences for people inhabiting the space. So it initially was very just form based, very just the idea of exploring what architecture is. And then as I studied it and went into my education, that's when as Stephano said, the context of what architecture is and why is it so important, the vernacular of what it is became more tangible at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I assume, Stephano, you did your bachelor's in India.
Yeah.
And then you decided to come to UK.
Yes. I did my schooling in Saudi Arabia, but I did my high school in India, so I did my bachelor's in India as well. And it was very, again, location-specific architecture. But then for my master's, I came to University of East London, as all three of you, as both of you, here in London. And then, yeah, it's quite different. So I got to learn a lot about different kind of architecture. But yeah, it was very important for me to see what's out there and learn all these things.
Mm-hmm. But you were already graduated in India. You did a master's as well, wasn't it? 5 years, that's correct.
Yeah. So what the course I did was Bachelors in Architecture. That's what it's called, but it's a 5-year course. So technically, I'm a qualified architect in India. And before coming, I worked in India in a city called Bangalore for 3+ years, doing some medium-sized residential projects. And I got a lot of site experiences. A very small firm, like 10 people firm. So it was a very small experiences, very hands-on site experience. And then I decided to do masters, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Rashmi? I think I know some stories about your travel in the world. Wasn't it like you went to, was it Italy, and then you went some time to Portugal as well? Was this during the studies, or how was the journey, basically? Because, for example, just let us know in terms of when you started your architecture school. Was in UK or was in a different country?
Yeah, so it was in UK. I went to Kingston University for my bachelor's, which is a very different experience going from an art school into an architecture school. But I didn't have the privilege to sort of do my BA somewhere else and sort of study somewhere else. So I was very new to architecture, and the projects I worked on at my bachelor were quite varied. So obviously very different location based. There was a project in Venice, and then there was in Switzerland. So you got to understand about more of the contextual needs when you were doing those projects. Like if you're designing a project in Japan, it's got a different way of building it, different materials, different climate needs than you would design a project in, for example. So it was very London based, but a wider context understanding of the projects. And for masters, I stayed in London. I went to UEL, and that's where I think I learned what it was that I wanted to do in architecture. So it's all one place based, but I feel like I've gotten a wider understanding of all the things from my BA and my master.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about both of you? Did you study full time in a way you didn't have to work, or were you studying and work at the same time? And what's the challenges?
So I just came to London 2 years ago especially for the studies. So I started right away my university, but as an international student, it was important for me to work during studies as well. So, for example, our uni, we had three days a week. So I could work like 20 hours, like 2 days a week at least. Starting off, I used to work in a restaurant, and I was new to the country, and it was a bit hard, to be honest. But my focus was university, so I just made sure that I only worked 2 days a week during weekends, and I have the 5 days a week for my university work. And you know how it is, we have got a lot of work, right? So yeah, that's how it happened when I started. And my first year went pretty quickly. I was very new to the country. It was very different, and it just went like a blur. And my second year was very focused, to be honest. After the summer, it was very focused. I got to spend a lot of time for my university projects, and the thinking obviously changed a bit. So it kind of helped as well. And summer is when I started working at Foster & Partners. I started as an internship for a summer. But yeah, after 3 months, I continued as a part-time. Again, working 2 days a week. And spending...
Oh, quite good. 2 days a month.
2 days a month would have been great. Yeah, I know.
That would be nice.
2 days a week, and the rest 5 days, yeah. So I worked 2 days a week there, and then I spent a bit more time for the university.
That's it.
Yeah. So on my BA, when I was doing my bachelor's, I worked part-time. I worked as like a customer assistant, and I definitely don't recommend doing it on your BA, because I mean I know everyone has different situations and financial
it's a situation
stages, but it was really rough. It's because I lived at home while doing my university on my BA, so I had to travel to uni and work on my weekends, and I think you underestimate how demanding your BA is, because you're drawing, like hand drawing plans and hand drawing like elevations and bricks, and it takes up your weekends, man. It takes up like a lot of time,
whole life. Yeah,
and I didn't have time. And I didn't have time because I was working. But then when I did my masters, because I worked for 2 years before doing my masters, I have saved up enough to like barely get me through the second year. So I had the privilege of just head down working my university, and I think that really helped me, gave me more time and allowed me to give my attention to work. But I know not everyone's on the same boat, but I think you definitely need to manage that pretty evenly, because it's
I mean, in a way it kind of helped me, to be honest, to understand how limited time is, and how time management is really important. I didn't have time. First year, I kind of messed it up because I was like, okay, this is the first time doing it, so I was just figuring it out. Second year, I was very cautious about my time, because I was using the time to commute. For example, in London, we have to go all around, and it takes a lot of time out of our lives, and then I have to use commute for any particular reading or like catching something like that. So time management, the value of it really taught me. So I think it was worth it. Yeah, it was worth it.
Yeah, I remember doing like architecture plans and like rendering on the train. And people used to get so annoyed because it's one seat free, but I've got my laptop and everything there. I'm just trying to render.
Exactly. You look like you're showing off or something, but I literally have a meeting with my tutor in like 15 minutes and I have to show something.
You're just trying to get to the end of it. Yeah, exactly.
I think it was from Bachelors that was when I really appreciate about sleep. Like, oh my God, I can't do like nights out anymore. And I remember like you guys saying that. I remember the story. But I remember it came to my mind. I think it was at the end of the year, the second or third year, I can't remember. But we had like 3 models, and I was renting a room. I had a bike, and then the university was like 15, 20 minutes by bike. But I couldn't carry the models on the bike because otherwise it'll be risky to get damaged by the time I was getting there. So I was like booking an Uber. Each time I had to go to uni with one model, come back, and then go again with different Ubers, basically. But at the end, he made it. But it's just, as you say, like was really like a struggle in terms of so many physical and hand drawings and all that stuff, like the time consuming. It was mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the
horrible
side. Yeah, we had people bring sleeping bags on the last week, like model making, because they didn't have time to go home. So yeah.
Well, that time was gone, and then masters came, right? So, what was the difference for you guys in terms of masters and the bachelors?
Rashmi, you can start there.
Okay. I think in masters, you immediately come to masters with an understanding of space and architecture, right? So it is no longer studying like the key values. It's now taking that and applying it to more real world projects. So things like model making and understanding structural difference and tolerances. Yes, you still do that in masters, but the sort of bones of it you've done in BA. So it's less about making models, at least in the earlier stages. And it's more about the social context, or for me at least. I feel like there's different modules that's a bit differently. But I think the way we work, it's about understanding the social context, like why are you making the space? How is it benefit to public realm? Is there public realm involved, for example? So really fine lines things from your BA where you'd be drawing, sketching, designing a house for a visiting professor, it's fine. But then it transitions from that to how do you address planning permission, how do you address council needs, how do you address the social needs. So it becomes more of a thinking game, whilst in the background you're applying everything. Okay. Yeah, so I think it's more difficult, but it's also a lot more fun and important. So
yeah, I completely agree, because bachelor's is when you study how to do something, and how do you make a building, how do you apply details, how do you use materials. But I think masters makes you think why you do something, and why should you use architecture in a certain way, in a certain context, and all those things. Why do you need to do this? And during both the years, our tutors were very specific about, okay, why you're doing this? What's the reason? Keep focusing on the potential of the project. How could this help people? And it was very people based. So in the bachelor's, it was more about you learn things, how to do things, and then in master it was why. And I think it is very important as architects. You should think about the why part, because most of us keep forgetting why we're doing certain things. And I think this 2 years was very important for us to recalibrate, like, okay, you need to do the certain things. Yeah, I completely agree with Rashmi.
Yeah. One thing I also realized was, and the bachelors, and I keep saying this in quite a lot in episodes, but it's actually really true, where a lot of people there is still exploring about architecture or actually the course. So they end up after 3 years, or some just they give up, but some going to cinema or illustration or etc. And then one thing I noticed in my master's was the motivation, where these people, like my colleagues, are just here really just to pursue architecture, and the passion of it was so much higher. and the motivation of, oh, this is like a next level, like everything, like information you say in terms of detail, build rankings, sustainability, etc., etc. And this was more like intense, but as Rashmi said, like more fun as well to do it because we were there for one purpose. It makes sense. And also in terms of all these 5 years of study, what was the particular thing that you took as an architecture that it makes you your character in a way? For example, for me, it could be like sustainability. I might pursue my future projects. It might be all about sustainability and the best resource, etc. But for someone else, it could be the curves of the building or banana shapes. I don't know, but
Yeah.
So yeah. So what was the particular thing for you guys that you will take you as like your persona?
I in particular was really fond of making public spaces. Even when I was doing bachelors, we were forced to do some residential projects in the first year, things like that. But towards the end of my bachelors, we could do like our own projects, like thesis and stuff like that. I always picked public spaces for some reason. I don't know. I like to map what people do in the streets, their behaviors, and just watch people. So if there's a line, they go through the line, people keep it. So I just like to notice people behavior in public spaces. And if you guys remember, both my master projects were public buildings. Both had spaces where I could let people behave in a certain way. So it's just, for me, it was like a very public space oriented projects. I don't know how it's going to be in the future, but I'm very interested in that. How, like, basically like urban projects, like, very public architecture projects. That's what I'm interested in.
You gotta keep still designing the red towers.
Yeah. Yeah, I still have plans. There's gonna be a red tower in the future.
I'm looking forward for that.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just. I just had certain reasons for keep putting that red thing in between. Yeah.
It's a staple at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough question because I think there is no one answer that I can think of. I think a lot of what interests me in architecture is, as Stephano said, public realm, because I think it's very important to address those. Especially in an age where public realm is sort of scarce to come by. The whole idea of who does the city belong to. You can't have a bench for too long. You can't. There's always CCTV cameras sort of looking at you and seeing what you're doing. So I feel like there is no true public realm. Then there's also the side that I consider that I'd lean more towards. I think it's sustainability and new materials. I think we're living at a time where you have to address sort of climate issues. You have to address the fundamentals of building for the future, and it's not business as usual. We can no longer just burn insane amount of fossil fuel. Just just make loads of concrete and stuff like that. And it's just it's at a time where architects are now almost like alchemists, right? Like we design substantial things out of waste and nothing. We turn things into gold by taking rubbish and biodegradable materials. Well, sometimes the goal is biodegradable materials. So architects are now in this realm of designing in such an imaginative way, and I think that's what excites me. I think that's what's really important, and I think that leads to creating buildings that are versatile, diverse, that address different social values. And I think that's the core of architecture. It's not the same copy and paste in every city in the world. It's more like designing for that vernacular, addressing the problems. So I think, it's quite political, but I think that's what excites me.
Yeah, everything is political. So,
yeah, exactly. But I think, I think sustainability and organic materials are quite my.
And so in general, really, in terms of, okay, we got a master's, but also when did you start to apply for jobs, or at least to build your portfolio for the purpose of finding a job in the practice?
I think the good thing about our units and the course we did was that we were building our portfolio as we were submitting, because everything that we submitted was in the format of a portfolio. It was quite serious, which is really handy because you could apply that straight into the job. But I think personally for me, what I found out really early on, and in a hard way, is that you can't submit like 50 pages. The portfolio, it has to be like 20 or 20, even 20 is a bit too much. So it's learning to filter all the work you've done through your master's and the great pages you have. It's trying to find like the one thing. But I applied. I think I took 2 weeks off after finishing, and then I applied straight away. I started putting my portfolio together, and applied for loads of places. Yeah, I think 2 weeks after.
And how is it going? How's the work?
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
It's quite full on. We're a very small team. We're a team of 6. So it's very full on, but it's very exciting. It's a good place.
Yeah. My case is it's a very unusual case because I didn't start as work. I started, as I said before, I was applying for an internship just for 3 months. I just didn't want to do. I was not going back home because it was too soon for me to go back home. So I was just going to be sitting here during summer. So I just wanted to do something rather than just work in a restaurant or a bar or something. I just want to do something. So I just applied like I think 3 months ago, before the summer started. But we didn't have much production. We didn't have much final products to put in our portfolio for our projects, to be honest. It was very, very early times for our projects. But I had some earlier experience projects and my old college projects compiled into a very small portfolio. But I think it was very important for me to apply it earlier than late, because I heard that like they had some summer positions left, but I was pretty sure it's going to be filled in like very quickly. So I just had to put something together, not very good, but I just had to put it and send. Yeah, but they took some time to reply. I was never expecting, and they clearly took like a month and a half to just reply. It's being under consideration. So I'm like, yeah, as if I'm gonna get it. Yeah, but just before we finished our first year, I got a confirmation saying you can do a 3-month internship, and that's how I started.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very good. Amazing. And look at you now.
Yeah.
And so in terms of we are talking now about 2 different companies and sizes, and so it will be interesting to know each of you experience in terms in each company, really. So Rashmi, for you, how many persons is in your company, and what mainly projects do you do, and what's your role in specific compared to the other team members?
Yeah, so we're a team of 6, so a very, very small firm. We're working in Shoreditch. We're based in Shoreditch, and a lot of our projects are commercial, and there's some housing in there as well. Sort of medium-sized projects in housing, and medium-sized in commercial, and I think a lot of it's like retrofit. So my role, it's interesting because I've not had a lot of experience working in a practice. I've only worked in 2 practices so far, one after my BA and then one after my master's. But the only difference I can tell is the place I work now. I'm more in charge of what I propose. So for example, if we're doing a retrofit on our reception, I get to put ideas forward. Or I think this material is good, it's sustainable. Let's use this. I think the finish and the directions of what it looks like should be like this. And then my director, who's a lovely person, will say, yes, that's great. I am more than happy for you to take charge on that, which I feel like is saying a lot, because not a lot of places let you do that. I think a lot of places will give you like, CAD this up, and you're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
But here, I think you are allowed to be your own architect. You're allowed to make your mistakes and find out. I think our director, as much as being a very good director, he accessed the net to make sure that you don't put anything that's wrong or that could put in that place. But you are very much allowed to be your own architect. And I think I didn't know how important that was until, I got this job. And I realized, oh, wow, you can actually explore your own, find your own taste and find your own palette without being a CAD monkey.
Yeah, I think it's really important.
That's the difference. Yeah.
To do and understand what your thing is, and to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. Yeah.
So what's the experience for you, Stephano?
Yeah. As I said before, I worked in a firm before coming to do masters. So I worked there around 3+ years, and the same thing happened to me as well. I was working in a very small team. We were like 7 people, and we had a lot of interns and like a couple of architects and then a couple of senior architects. That's what we had. And then I had, even though I just started, I didn't know anything, but I was handed some pretty good responsibilities regarding designing and choosing things. And then you get to make mistakes. You are not perfect, but that's fine. You just do it and learn. And then I had that comfort zone of, trying out different things for a couple of years. And then that's what I did. That's when I did my master's. And at Foster and Partners, now I'm a part of a team of 6, which is in one of the studios. So the office has like 6 studios in total in around the London campus. And I'm a part of a studio which has a couple of projects. So I'm a part of a team who's handling a project in Fulham. So there's a residential project going on, which pretty much started when I joined. So it was just, I was involved in the design phase, and it's now under planning application. So now I'm a part of a team which is like 6 people. So we have like literally 2 part 2, 1 partner, 1 senior partner. Like, so we have people of every levels. So everyone has their own responsibilities and their own work. It's not like you just do this, you just do that. So everyone has got their own responsibilities, which is, I think, very good. For every stage you get to do you get to do your part. So and I can see what part 1 is doing. I can see what senior partners are doing. So it's very, very learning place for me, to be honest. I'm still learning, and I look at them and see what they do, how they handle projects, because then, we are all aware of the number of projects that they do, right? So in order to do those kind of big projects, there has to be a very rigorous review and very good process in place. And seeing all that, which is actually very fascinating. Seeing all that, how they manage everything. They have meetings every week within the teammates. They keep planning what they do. So it's very, very, the system is really good. So for me, learning the system is very important. Even for the future, say 20 years later, if I am starting my own practice, I think it's very important to learn all the systems, how you do certain things, because it's tested and proven, right? It's been tested for 20 years or 25 years. Practice has been there for 50, 60 years. So the system has been there. So I think I'm just watching them and learning, to be honest. That's what's happening.
That's the way, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
the way.
learning from the big ones,
Yeah,
and then it's just like why they are big, and then applying when it comes your time, to open the firm or something, and then apply the same recipe.
True. And there are people who've been there for long. So, the lower tier.
Norman Foster.
Yeah, like Norman Foster's been there forever. But my immediate senior partner has been there for 38 years already. So he designed the British Museum and those kind of buildings. So he's been there, and he still manages people like me at the part 1 and part 2. So he's there to tell what happens and what doesn't, what you should do, and then it's engaging. So it's important. It's easy. It's actually easy to learn with these people. If unlike if they will if they left, they're there still to teach things, which is good.
And yeah, and I see that as a skill as well, isn't it? It's because it needs to be really patient, like for that kind of years of experience and to be that level and still receiving part twos and part ones in the way of, okay, I know you can't do this or you don't understand this, but just like, it's like in the way like they're students basically, isn't it? It's like a teacher on his own practice.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's a very humbling experience, to be honest. When I joined, I was like, these are like huge people. Like, they have big shots. They've done their part. They have completed 30 years of experience in architecture. They don't have to look at it. Like, they don't have to mind what we are doing. But they honestly come to us and say things. And like our tutors, like Amor and Rosa, they just come down to us and say, you know what, you should do this, you should do this. You shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. And that, I think that's very important. It's exactly like them. So it just feels like I just graduated to another university. So it's pretty much the same.
And architecture is all about experience, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
we've there for years.
Yeah.
And so for you guys both, like, what's your thoughts on part 3?
Yeah. So part 3, it's in my horizon, and it's interesting because I've been in education for so long. I now feel like, okay, I'm allowed to. I don't have to worry about like a submission. I can live my life. In terms of work, yes, but in life, fine. And I would like to know part 3, but I think personally, I want to have a bit of time where I learn to progress as an architect. Because for me, I think I want to graduate as a competent architect in my part 3. And that means understanding, getting more experience, basically being a better designer and architect. And then I think I'll be ready to do part 3. But I know it's very important.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I didn't learn my basics here. I'm new to the country, and I think it's very important for me to learn everything before being a part of it, because becoming a chartered architect comes with a lot of responsibility. You have to do all those things first. So for me, I think I'm just pacing it down. I've just done 7 years of university, and I'm like, okay, I should need some break, and I'm gonna take it slow and like learn everything, which I missed for the past 5 years, and learn everything, and then do part 3 maybe a couple of years later. Yeah, but I will do it. Yeah, I think it's really important.
Of course, I mean, it's part of the qualifications, and you can't call yourself an architect without the part 3. That's the thing.
Yeah. We are not architects.
So what's your no? So what's your main goals in the way of I probably will give a timeline 5-10 years, but let's not give it at this time. And it's like, what are your goals? Because as you were saying, like, architecture is about experience, and then some of you were saying like 20 years, but probably Rashmi wants to open his firm in 5 years time. So it depends for each of our persons. So what's your goals in terms of architecture and what you want to achieve?
You want to go first, Rashmi?
Oh, please, no, you go first.
Okay. Firstly, like, priorities keep changing, right? Like, all the plans and all our important factors keep changing. So for me, initially, it was very like, I finished study, I started my own practice, I wanted to make change in the world, those kind of thoughts. But now, for me, I think it's more of learning, because I think there's a lot of things to learn in architecture. And as we said before, once you do part 2, you understand why you're doing this. And that, to be honest, the last 2 years made me realize there's plenty of things to learn. Even if you're doing a small house for a person, you have to learn a lot. Forget big buildings. Just a small house, you have to learn a lot about environment, how the earth works, how the materials work, everything, right? So for me, it's still a long learning process. It's going to take time for me, I think. And I'm very humbled by the scope of this industry. And I think yeah, I think I'm gonna be learning from a couple of good mentors for a while again, and then maybe think about doing something. But for me, again, as I said before, I'm very passionate about public realms and like public architecture. So I want to think in that kind of parameters. So for me, I don't have much experience in those kind of fields. So for me, it's about learning those areas first, and then I don't know. Let's see. At least for 5 to 10 years, that's a plan. Yeah.
Looking forward for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Stephano completely. I think again, it's very new to me in terms of architecture. So I understood. I did my part one. I did my part two, and I feel like I've checked the boxes. Like, oh, I understand. But I think, like as you said, even a small scale project, there's so much to learn. There's so much to learn about design in general. I guess even deeper when you get into sort of, you have to liaise with contractors, the clients, so then there's that side of things. And there's also the side where you have to understand all the design, and you have to understand the real weight and real world applications of materials. So there's loads of things too. I think I am still exploring. I'm still understanding. And again, even with public realm, I think 5-10 years down the line, I would love to have a couple of projects that I've worked on that can be really proud of in terms of, doing like a convention or designing space, designing some things for festivals. Like, London is so vast and so rich in terms of architecture festivals. There's so many opportunities to do this thing. I'd love to do some of them. I think that would be, also that would be my immediate goal is to try to get my foot in that. And then eventually all this experience will lead up to a point where I think I'd be confident enough to either start my own practice or sort of be in a collective. I'm even thinking about architecture practice in a way. You have traditional practices, but you also have collectives. You have collective designers who just wants to, make the world a better place. They're doing all these interventions and designing the experience for people. So even looking into a collective, I think, yeah, I think there is no box anymore. I think it's so vast.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't know.
No, absolutely. And
I must say this because don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of different ways of learning things, and then some of my friends, they've already started firms, and they've already started putting businesses back in India, even in like Middle East. They are all learning in different ways. Like they start off projects, they learn in those kind of ways. And for me personally, I had a very good mentor back in India who I learned through, and they taught me a lot of things which they can't teach in a university. For me, I think mentors are really important, and that's why I think I'm just leaning towards that side. But yeah, everyone can learn in their own way. You can either start up really quickly and then start doing and then learning from the mistakes that you make, the good things that you see. And yeah, I think there is a lot of scope in that as well.
And there's something that I always keep in mind. I was doing research about Saint Pompidou in Paris, designed by Rashmis and Richard Rogers. And one thing that Rashmis said, I never forget, was I can't remember the time when they won the competition, how old he was, but he said something like, if I was on my 20s or my 30s, I wouldn't be able to design this. And it kind of gave me like a looking forward for the age of comparison to the mind I have at the moment. You know what I mean? Like at the moment we have this mind, the way we do the designs and the thinking, analysis, etc. And then looking forward to see how it is in 50 or 40 years.
Yeah, I was having this similar conversation in my office with some of my colleagues. And I have a person in my team who's from Mexico, and he's been working for 20 years now. He's very experienced, and but he said to me one sort of thing, I would never forget this. He said there are good architects and matured architects. You can say when there's a good architect, like you can be like a student, but a good architect, like who designs very well, but there's a matured architect. As you said before, like Renzo Piano, I think when he reached that maturity is when he could do sensible things. For example, he designed that New York Times building in Times Square, their office, New York Times office. He was like 40 or 50. I don't remember what age was it, but I think that kind of maturity takes upon you. Like you learn to look at different things in a different way. So I think it's very important to be a much good, well thought architect than a good architect. And if anyone could be a good architect. A good artist is a good architect. A good writer is a good architect. Like everyone can make good stuff. But I think for an architect, especially making spaces for other people, I think there's some maturity that has to be happen before you're making spaces for other people.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very good.
Very good.
Yeah, because when he said that, that's when I realized, because there's a lot of designers around, right? Even in my office or even in our university, there's a lot of different designers. And I look at all of them and I think there are some people who design different kind of stuff and it's really good, right? But I'm thinking, okay, isn't a sensible way to do things? Sometimes I wonder. And then when this guy said this, I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of makes sense, You have to be mature. You have to see everything and then decide what to do and what not to do. And I think that's really important.
No, absolutely. And obviously, I'm not sure if I'm wrong saying this, but seeing in terms of scale, like 150 years ago, let's say it was 100 architects, the population grows. So like in 20 years, it might be, let's say, 200 architects compared to what's before. So with more competition and more ways of thinking. And so yeah, that's a really like valuable keys to have in mind to separate that amount of people in that field.
Yeah, and if you now that you mentioned Renzo or big architects like Rogers or Norman Foster, I think one thing that I could notice is they keep learning, right? They keep learning. They're like 70s, 80s, 90s. They're still learning small things, and some of us keep thinking, oh, Jim learned everything. We're not doing forestry and we're doing architecture starting out of. I think there's a lot of things to learn, and I think that comes again back to this mature architect thing. Pedro, you're saying something.
I think that, no, as completing as you were saying, like architecture is kind of the field where you can't stop. You need to always be updated of new things. Either it's like innovation, technology, materials, etc. Because architecture will grow because architecture now is not almost like 50 or 100 years ago.
Definitely, yeah.
So I think that's the fun part as well of always be keeping updated and then learn new things.
Yeah, especially with the new AI arrival of AI. So I keep wondering, does it scare you, Pedro? Does AI scare you?
Well, I think I'm still kind of like wondering what's up there, isn't it? Because I think AI came like really as a bomb, like
it just came
the beginning of this year or end of last year. Yeah. So I think a lot is happening, like either from ChatGPT or plugins for Revit, plugins for Rhino. So it's a lot of things like AI to mix with Rhino and then Rhino to Revit. So all those kind of stuff, it kind of exploring. So what this brings to architecture and what takes from architecture. And so at the moment, it's really just like, I'm not an expert in AI, so I was just like looking what others people saying about it, and then really just using it and experiencing myself as well. What's AI for me, and then how can I use AI for my favor in the way. So, I like to see. It doesn't scare me at this point. I like to see it as a tool. And not like a job taker or something, but
it's not a job taker. Like the new innovations kept happening even in the past 100 years, right? When computers came, we would have thought, oh my God, what are we going to do? We're going to design with a computer. Look at us doing, like we literally design with a computer.
Yeah, can you imagine when Excel came out and the accountants were like,
exactly.
Oh my God,
I can't do math by myself. Like the computer is doing math.
Yeah.
How are we supposed to live?
But I think I've always scared of one thing, and I think everyone relates to this, is like how how innovative we can with the technologies can take out from the personality in a way of the touch of the person, like the being close to the person in a way of, if AI do something, will be based on algorithms and what's logical. So in a way, when we design things, it's more about how the people will feel in that space, how the people will take from that space, etc. So it's just a little bit of how this will impact them.
Yeah, because for us, it's a very important thing to think about, because I don't think it's a job taker. I think it replaces jobs, because that's how it's been going on forever. New things come on, and we do things with that. But from AI, I don't know. I can't think out. I can't look after the line for some reason. I don't know. I can't think what's gonna happen next. For us, because I literally see people using AI in my office, and like they're just like using it for everything. Like I'm like, oh my
That's
god,
crazy.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, kind of makes me uncomfortable, but I'm not scared.
Yeah.
A lot. I think it's gonna replace a lot of things for us, but I think we just have to keep learning. I think that's what.
How about you, Rashmi, in terms of your company of 6 people, do you already using AI or any like this artificial tool?
Not really. I think we use things as like visualizing programs like rendering or SketchUp and stuff like that. But again, I think from my point of view, and I think from the people in our practice's point of view, is that, like as you said correctly, it's a tool, right? You use it to design something that you have thought about. You've designed it, and now you are using these tools to visualize and sell and produce what your idea is. So we don't use any AI. Although at work, I've been practicing with I don't know if you guys heard the Photoshop AI beta thing. Yeah, so I used that on so I tested that on like a little render. And it was quite close. It was quite close. But again, it's like, it thinks what it should be and puts it forward, right? Like it's completely different from what I want it to be. But if you're in a pinch, you can use that tool to like fix a little area, stuff like that. But I think for example, like if you were designing a residential house, for example, and you have to detail this wall, and you have like a feature wall going in there, you have a shadow gap, you have like a recessed lighting, whatever. AI can only do so much to visualize that. When you give those drawings to the contractor to build, you have to, in your head, figure out the depth, the size of those recesses, what that's going to be, what material it is, what finish it is, how's the substrate build up. All of these things you have to detail and provide in a tender drawing, right, for these contractors to build. The day AI does that, that would be scary. That would be
but I think that's a long way away, because now that Rashmi said this, kind of calmed my it just feels better. Because when you think about it, there's a lot of thought just in this much area, there's a lot of thought going into that one particular detail, and I don't think AI is up to do that yet. In replacing renders and visualizations, very good conceptual design, maybe, I don't know, but I think when coming to the detailed part of it, I don't think it's there yet.
Yeah, because I think that's what makes a space, right? Like if you go into a space that's AI's designed, I think it will be like a panic room. Like it'll be like all like white walls and like banana shapes and all of this stuff, and you're like, where is the front door? Yeah, you'll be like, where's the front door? Where do I get out from?
Yeah.
I think again,
and then there's a certain trust that a client gives an architect when you're supposed to design, right? Okay, I've appointed an architect to do something because I trust it, and you were supposed to design good spaces for me. And if you're a client and you're telling AI to design, I don't think there's anything that you can control over. So it's fine. It's not going to take our jobs.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's like this technology moving so fast. Yeah. It's interesting.
The rate is very incremental. Like it's going faster than yesterday. So it's kind of scary.
Wow.
Yeah, it's scary and interesting at the same time to see how far this goes. Yeah. yeah, I think we just have to wait and see. Unless some of us like creates any AI software to do something particular.
Yeah, which is a very good job.
You know, there's someone out there doing that already.
I
There's a design magazine waiting to come out with that.
I think it's a pretty good time to invest in AI. Also, I think if you future, I think AI is going to be experimental a lot. So maybe it's a good thing. Let's see. Let's figure out.
Let's see. That's the thing. Okay. Well, this was a very interesting conversation in terms of the backgrounds, the experience we have in university, and what we are challenging on the practice or the things going on, and then our plans in the future. Looking forward to see that. And then actually, for the things we said today, it'll be interesting, like say in 5 or 10 years' time, to come back to this episode and see the things.
Yeah,
the things that we thought
Rashmi, by then he's going to be like a very good celebrity, like a very podcast king. It's just going to be like, the small guys. And then you're going to be like, can we do an episode if you're okay, if you're free? Like, yeah. And
we have to contact
and then
you.
We wouldn't do online. We would do like his own studio, and then we go into his studio and then sit and then we talk. Future is looking
we'll have
bright.
to book a time in with the secretary to get in.
Future is looking bright.
Well, we'll see what's gonna happen. Hopefully the podcast goes well, but I won't forget my friends. So don't worry about that. And again, as I said in a couple of episodes, I do this because I enjoy talk about architecture, and there's no profit whatsoever, and it's been a year already. So there's more expense than profit, to be fair.
Yeah.
So,
but it's not about that, right? I appreciate what you're doing because I think it's even if we have spoken about these very similar topics in our classes, but it's important we take it a bit, we make it a bit formal because we have never spoken about these things in seriousness. And then I think, and it's also important to share our experience with other people. And I appreciate what you're doing. You've been doing it relentlessly for the past 1 year. He's not given up. It's just not a single thing. It's just like, it's not like a fun thing. He's been doing it for a while.
Well.
Yeah,
and he's been marketing it very well as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's
Yeah, but I also think it's very important doing this because it's accessible, right? Like when I was studying architecture, when I started studying architecture, my BA, I had none of these resources. Like you'd watch the YouTube video. I remember watching a YouTube video on why to become an architect, and the first line the guy was like, "Don't do it. It's not worth it." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. Yeah, cool." You know, he's like, "You're not gonna make any money."
Yeah,
which is true. Like, yeah, it was correct. But like, you know. But these podcasts, they're supportive, they're informative, and like they give you like the real, like a down to earth experience. You know what I mean? So I think it's very good. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, it's very interesting to be honest. Good to go.
Well, I'm gonna keep the motivation going on then.
Yeah. You should have interesting guests.
Can you invite us when you get like no one foster in this, and then we'll jump on the call.
Why not? Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sounds good.
That's just gonna
the time when I do an interview with Dark Ingles.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. When is that happening?
Be in the background.
When is that happening, Victor?
I don't know. I mean, he only saw my profile on LinkedIn, and that's it.
He was very excited about that.
That's still good.
I was dreaming.
It was surreal. Like,
And you know the funny thing? It could be like the wrong purpose.
Come
in a way
on.
No, obviously I'm overthinking now, but it's interesting because I was connecting to a lot of people that work for big, so probably he saw who's this geezer like with the following my employees, and then like probably click on my profile. And it doesn't even work.
I don't think that way. If you think that way, you're wrong. I don't think that's the way. I don't think that's the way.
Well,
you know,
I'm only joking.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you see these podcasts. I'm Pedro, and I want to work for you.
It's very good.
Thank you. Anyway, thank you guys. It was a really pleasure to have you on the podcast for the first episode of the graduate series. And looking forward to see the next ones. And I hope you guys follow them as well.
Yeah. So
thank you very much.
Do you have students from other universities or something like that? Is it?
But let's just do a pause here.
Okay.
Because I was.
He was building up an end. Oh my God, sorry.
Yeah.
No, wait. Because I was speaking and also processing what was gonna be my editing after, because I was like, these parts here I'm gonna cut, not putting it up on episode.
Do you want to do that again?
And then when I said, no, it's not like, because what I was saying about, oh, thank you guys, is when you guys were saying, oh, thank you. And then I was gonna use that part for the finish. And then you start to talk about, oh, you're gonna introduce another people from the other units. Like, oh, damn it.
This guy had to ruin everything.
No, it's okay.
Come on, do it again.
So
Come on,
this pause, no, I already said it. So on this pause, you guys can say thank you, and then one pause, and then we can talk about everything else. I just want to use that part. So you can say whatever, like thank you or what we want to say.
Yes, thank you so much for having us, Pedro. I think it was fantastic. I feel very privileged to be in the first episode. I can't wait to see all of them, and good things will come of this. It will help a lot of people. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thank you.
We appreciate it, Pedro. Thank you.
Right, that's it.
How hard is it?
He's like, yeah, I appreciate it.